be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus told his disciples this parable. A man going on a journey called in his servants and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to a third 1. To each according to his ability. Then he went away. Immediately, the one who had received 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5. Likewise, the one who had received 2 made another 2. But the one who had received 1 went off and dug a hole in the ground and buried his master's treasure. After a long time, the master of those servants came back and settled accounts with them. The one who had received 5 talents came forward, bringing the additional 5. He said, Master, you gave me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more. The master said to him, Well done, my good and faithful servant. Since you are faithful in small matters, I will give you great responsibilities. Come, share your master's joy. Then the one who had received 2 talents also came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more. His master said to him, Well done, my good and faithful servant. Since you were faithful in small matters, I will give you great responsibilities. Come, share your master's joy. Then the one who had received 1 talent came forward and said, Master, I knew that you are a demanding person, harvesting where you do not plant, and gathering where you do not scatter. So out of fear, I went off and buried your talent in the ground. Here it is back. His master said to him in reply, You wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I do not plant, and gather where I do not scatter. Should you not then have put my money in the bank, so that I could come back and have interest on my return? Now take that talent from him and give it to the one with 10. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will grow rich. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And throw this useless servant into the darkness outside, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise you, Lord.
You know, for the first couple of years, World War II was going very badly for America and its allies. It was going badly in the European theater, and it was also going very badly in the Pacific theater. Kind of a low point in the Pacific theater was when the United States government and army even had to leave the Philippines. And General MacArthur was the governor and commander-in-chief, sort of the Philippines territory, and he has to leave, and there's this great scene of him leaving. And right before he's about ready to leave, he says to the Filipino people, I will return. Okay. You know, fast forward about 12 months, 18 months, MacArthur now is ready to come back to the Philippines. And like a good showman, he has all these people on the beach ready to film his return to the Philippines. And there's that great scene where he's coming out of the amphibious vehicle and he's wading through the water, and all these pictures are being taken. And when he finally sets foot on Filipino soil, he says, I have returned. And then the Filipino people have new hope. As Jesus approached the end of his life, he started to prepare his disciples that he was going to be leaving them. And he did promise that he would return. And they kind of thought that he would be coming back quickly and pretty soon. Jesus' return was so important to Matthew that Matthew has one of these great discourses or great homilies that Jesus gives all about his return. So the gospel from this week is from that section of Matthew's gospel where Jesus is telling people that one day he will return. And when he returns, there's going to be a reckoning. There's going to be a judgment. Okay, so in the gospel today, a wealthy man decides to go on a journey, calls in his servants. He gives one servant 5 talents, some measure of money, we don't know what that means. He gives one 2, he gives one 1. Okay? And he leaves. He says, I will return. So this is Jesus talking about himself. When he returns, he calls in his servants. And the one comes up and says, Master, you gave me 5. I went away, I played the market. I made some more for you. Here's another 5. The master says, well done, good and faithful servant. Come in and share my joy. Okay. The other guy comes up. Master, you gave me 2. I went out, they played the markets, I invested, I made a little, I lost a little. But you know what? The markets are doing pretty well, as they are now. And here's 2 back. The guy says, wonderful, great job. And this other would-be guy comes up. And he goes, oh, Master, I know that you gather where you do not scatter. And I know that you harvest where you don't sow seed. And you're a tough man, you're a tough businessman. So I didn't want to lose your one talent. Here it is back. And then the owner says, you worthless, lazy servant. You know I'm a good businessman. The least you could have done is throw it in the bank and make a little interest on it. Then he turns to his other servants and he says, take that coin from him and give it to the one with 10. Because the people who know how to handle money, know how to do the right thing, they're going to get more. And then the people who waste things, they don't even deserve the little they have. Okay. You know what? Sometimes there are parables where Jesus encourages people to take initiative. This isn't one of them. The weight of this parable is Jesus condemning complacency. There are 2 who do the right thing, but the feel of this parable is it really weighs on the person who isn't doing what he or she is supposed to be doing with all that God has given him or her. So, if I had to summarize the gospel today, it's that Jesus condemns complacency. Jesus condemns complacency. And Jesus was warning his disciples, when he comes back, if they've been complacent with everything that he's given them, there's going to be a reckoning. And it's not going to be pretty. Really. So Jesus condemns complacency. You know what? Sometimes all of us are tempted to be complacent. I know it myself. I'm kind of doing the right thing in my life. I'm kind of praying and I'm trying to work hard and I'm a Catholic priest, whatever that. But sometimes I can just get a little complacent. I can just get a little complacent. And that's a sin in the life of Jim McGuinn's. But all of us can become a little complacent. Like that story, God has given us a lot of talents and a lot of blessings and a lot of gifts and a lot of potential. And sometimes we might bury all the gifts that God has given us. Or if we don't bury them, we just don't use them. You know what? The gospel today is calling all of us take a risk. To take a risk. Don't bury the coin, but to take a risk. You know, Jesus loved risk takers. Jesus himself was a risk taker. He wasn't afraid to try new things. And he liked people who were going to try new things. And for Jesus, you know, fortune favors the bold, especially when God's grace is behind, you know, a God-ordained initiative. That first guy was risk adverse. He was a wimp. Okay? He was a wimp. And there's no place for wimps in the kingdom of God. So, this is what I'm encouraging all of us to do. Take a risk this week. Do something risky for the Lord. See, God has invested in each one of us. And God is going to be looking for a return on his investment. And, you know, this is like, you know, this is divine ROI. This is God's return on his investment. And there's going to be a reckoning. And there's no more important ROI than God's return on investment. And we're the people to do it. So this week, be courageous and take a risk and do something risky for the Lord. I'm not telling you to do something stupid. Okay, that's something different. Okay. But let's take a risk for the Lord. Do something risky for the Lord. Terry was at the 9:30 Mass, and we had a prayer service for her husband yesterday. And there was a poem on the cover of the brochure of the booklet. And it's that famous poem, The Funeral Blues. And so I looked at it, and it goes like this. It says, stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone, prevent the dog from barking on the juicy bone, silence the piano, and with muffled drums, bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. And it goes on and on and on. And I had not recited that poem in a long while. So before the service, I said, oh, should I take a chance or not? So I recited the poem. And it worked. I just flubbed up a little things, but by and large it worked. So it's good to be risky. So this week, do something risky for the Lord. You know, if there's someone at work that needs a little encouragement, or if there's someone at work that you need to have a crucial conversation with, do it. Okay? Do something risky for the Lord. You know, maybe God is prompting you to start to give a little bit more in the collection to support the mission of our parish. And you might be concerned, you know, it might affect your lifestyle, you might not have the money. I would say take a risk. And see if God provides for you. You know, we've had a lot of people signing up to get involved in ministries in the parish. And they're kind of stuck in the pipeline right now because we don't have enough ways to get them into different ministries that we want to get involved with. But, you know, maybe the Holy Spirit of God is nudging you, prompting you to get involved with some ministry or some activity in the parish. I would just encourage you to lean into that prompting and to do something risky and to take a chance. So, this week, let's do something risky for the Lord, and I think God will bless us. Today, Bruce and Daniel are speaking at the Masses to introduce themselves, and they're two of the guys who are coming on staff to help us here in the parish. Bruce?
Good morning, everyone. As Father said, my name is Bruce Carlson. And in addition to having Tim, our seminarian that's with us this morning from St. Charles, Father has asked Dan and I to say a couple of things about ourselves in the way of introduction. The position that I recently accepted here at St. Peter and Paul is Director of Music and Liturgical Ministries. A little bit about myself. I've been married for almost 31 years. Now to my wonderful wife, Julie. We have 6 children, ranging in ages from 29 all the way down to Julia Grace, who just turned 12, and there's only one boy in the middle there someplace. last pass, it just struck me, it sounds like a Wheel of Fortune introduction, but I was born and raised in Springfield, Maine, and I've worked in a few places in that area as a music director. Most recently, I've just come from Kennebunkport, Wells, McGuinn's Beach area of York County in southern Maine. I've also had the pleasure of being the music director in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, the National Shrine of the Divine Mercy for about 5 years. And yes, I've worked with Father Jim for a while in University City at St. Agnes St. James.
I worked with Bruce.
Went to Berklee College of Music, which was and still is basically a jazz school. I studied as a percussionist, and if you're wondering, yes, as a drummer. I play several instruments, some better than others. Down the road, you may remember that and say, yeah, I see what he means about something. Additionally, over the years, I've also occasionally played in working bands, locally, regionally. I personally enjoy most types of music, from rock and roll to Gregorian chant. I have a problem with country music. That's just a personal thing. My wife is still trying to win me over. Okay, my job here at St. Peter and St. Paul is St. Peter and Paul is to oversee and guide all folks that are in any kind of liturgical ministry, from the folks who do the music, Anna Marie in the choir, and Becky playing here today, to lectors, to altar servers, Eucharistic ministers, and so on. I'm very lucky to have had a couple of great people who've already been doing work here in the parish to coordinate those ministries, which is great, since I only arrived here about a week and a half ago, so that has been a blessing. I'd like to say that I've been pleasantly surprised by how many talented, capable, faithful people there are actually participating in the life of the parish, both in liturgical ministries and involved in other ways in the parish. I'm looking forward to working with you all to look at the best ways to continue to create that environment that fosters spiritual growth for each one of us individually, each parishioner, and also is inviting to those outside the parish, looking in, and builds up our community of faith. Closing, I'm also looking forward to meeting many more of you in the days and weeks ahead. We just met, but I'm going to ask a favor that you say a prayer for my family and I. We're kind of taking a risk. Father Jim and I had a conversation months ago, which I was sharing that I was very happy where I was. And so maybe I was in a good place. It's a little bit of a risk for us to come to where to go. So say a prayer for my family, for my new ministry here, and I'll do the same for you. Amen? Amen. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How many homilies are you going to get today? My name is Daniel Hoover. I'm the new director of pastoral ministries here at St. Peter and Paul. I'm originally from Michigan, and I went to Michigan State University where I studied religion and philosophy. And then I went and got a master's of theology at the University of Notre Dame. And part of that program was that we lived in community. We were sent to different parts of the country to work in the parish of the experience. So I was sent to Wilmington, Delaware, of all places. And to my surprise, I stayed there and took a job at the parish and had a wonderful job. And I wasn't even complacent. I enjoyed it. I think good work there and had a great community. But I met this crazy priest, Father Jim, and he told me a little bit about what he wanted to do here at St. Peter and Paul, and I decided it was something that I wanted to be a part of. And I really I think our staff is amazing. I mean, I've only been here for 2 weeks, but we've had so much fun, and we're really working together to try to make this the strongest community that it can possibly be. And of course, that is dependent on you. We can't do that as a staff, but just the best way is to serve you and support you. Even this weekend, I've met people who say that one woman said she'd been here for 2 years, but she still doesn't really know anybody. And another woman just recently lost her mother and has come back to the faith. And so how we treat those people and what kind of experience they have in the past often does change if they stay involved, especially young adults. If they don't feel like they're involved or welcome, then a lot of times they don't stick around. So we'll just work on how we can be more inclusive. But then not only just be a community, but also to go deeper. I mean, you can go to the Elks Club if you want community, or there's other places, but also go deeper in our faith. And a lot of times that means sharing our brokenness, sharing our struggles. We're all human, and we're all pilgrims on a journey towards heaven. And when a community becomes vulnerable, when we start sharing about the struggles in our marriages, or our financial struggles, or our struggles with pride, or anger, or any addictions that we have, or any wounds from our past that we're still carrying with us, when we start sharing those things with each other, we start to trust us. Henry Nouwen was a spiritual master of the 20th century, and he said, community is the first fruit of shared brokenness. So that when we share our brokenness with each other, we become closer. And so we're going to try to do that here, eventually through small faith sharing groups. We're not going to do it right away, just if you want to do it the right way, but hopefully you'll all consider being involved, growing deeper in your faith, and growing closer to the community. Also be involved in baptism preparation to try to engage those young couples, marriage preparation to keep those young couples engaged in our parish. Our outreach to the poor, maybe eventually take some parish mission trips and retreats. And also other adult faith formation work and catechesis. Am I forgetting?
Cleaning my car.
And cleaning Father's car. He's actually pretty good. So I'm really honored to be here. I just was married 2 months ago. It's an exciting time in my